Hey again! We're back again with part 2 of our Learning to Learn two-parter of Fundamental Fantasy. So, we'll be covering a few things here, and you're gonna have some homework to do, alright? Well, kinda. You're gonna do it as we go through it, so stop. It's important that you learn how to do this stuff firsthand, alright? So, where do we start? Well, a minor history lesson so you young whippersnappers realize how good y'all have it. Why, back in my day, we didn't have the internet or Google. If you had a question pop up in your head, you went, I wonder what the answer to that is. And that was it. And if it was something that you really needed for work or school, you walked to a library. Uphill both ways in a blizzard, carrying your stone tablets to carve the answer on. Then you dropped them by accident, made up some excuse, and spent another 40 days as a hermit hoping nobody realized that you screwed up that badly. There may be some slight embellishment there. There may be outright fabrication as well. Anyway, the point is, the internet's freaking awesome, so bloody well use it. And to do that, we're gonna find out how. Yay! Right, so a lot of you probably will know a lot of this stuff, but it's called fundamental fantasy for a reason. So we're gonna go pure out basics on this, okay? Okay. So, next off, open your browser. Right, you're probably watching this on YouTube. Well, open a new tab. Whatevs. The point is, we want you to have a tab that you can do a Google search on. Nothing too fancy, but do a search on the term horseshoe orbit, alright? A bunch of stuff pops up. Yay! You successfully used Google. Big deal. Now we're gonna go look around to see what else we can do to make more useful searches. So first off, clicking over to the Images tab at the top of the search there, and you'll see a bunch of diagrams about horseshoe orbits. Pretty neat stuff. It's easy to see stuff changes. We tweak our search parameters this way though. So, go back up to your search. It should still have it filled in as a horseshoe orbit. Now, add a minus sign right in front of the word orbit without any spaces. So it should read horseshoe space dash orbit without a space. Search again, and all we get are horseshoes with no orbits at all. See, using your minus sign like this means you don't want any results with the term orbit in them. Next off, get rid of that minus sign, but keep the horseshoe orbit search. Next off, put a double quotation sign down and enter in Saturn directly after it, again without spaces, then close with another double quotation sign and search again. This time, you're telling the search to look for horseshoe orbits, but it will only display those which also specifically have the term Saturn as well, which should bring up a bunch of pictures showing Epimetheus and Janus, two of Saturn's moons, which are actually in a horseshoe orbit within our own solar system. Neat stuff, huh? Now that assumes that you knew that Saturn had a horseshoe orbit at all, though. How would you even know to search for that if I hadn't told you? I mean, how did I even learn about it? In my case, the answer was following a ton of Wikipedia links between various articles because they seemed interesting. But let's say you just heard about horseshoe orbits and wanted to learn more. Well, you type in your horseshoe orbits dealie into Google, with or without your quotation marks, since it's usually pretty good about guessing about what you want to find. Now then, try selecting the tabs for videos or all, and you'll get a whole ton of results of anything from Wikipedia itself, which is pretty respectable for some basic level research as long as you avoid anything political and stick to the hard sciences, or a bunch of YouTube videos where they explain these concepts. Note that just because it's on Wikipedia or YouTube doesn't mean it's true, though. Check a few different sources and verify that they agree on a concept. I don't actually recommend just following the reference links on Wikipedia, because all that really does at best is tell you that somebody else said what they copy-pasted onto Wikipedia, so you're really seeing the same source essentially twice, which isn't all that useful for verifying much of anything other than that, yes, Wikipedia copy-pasted it correctly. Anyway, we'll assume you found a video or checked up some website talking about horseshoe orbits, and since they're one in our own solar system, they probably go into the whole Saturn moon steely. So there you go, nice and simple. It means now you can go do your Saturn-specific lookup. What if you wanted to verify that? What if you were looking through some long research paper about it? There's like hundreds of pages here. Oh, have no fear. That's where Control F comes to the rescue. Hold the Control key, and then press F while it's still held down. That's the shortcut for the Find feature in pretty much every Windows-based program. If you're using a Mac, Command plus F, same dealie. Now, type in the Saturn into the Find text window and hit Find Next. There you go, it'll search through all those hundreds of pages until it bumps into a reference to Saturn. You can even use the Highlight All button, which will put a yellow box around the text by default. Mine does a fuchsia box because I like fuchsia more. But the important part is that it highlights the text so you can scroll through big blocks of text easily and see what you're looking for quickly. Another handy feature there is the Match Case button, which lets you look specifically only for certain things. Like, maybe you're trying to find something about some guy named Billy. You're reading through a text which talks about billy clubs. I don't know, maybe you're insane. We'll just run with it, alright? So you type in Billy with a capital B and select Match Case, and now when it searches, it'll only find Billy with a capital B. Simple enough stuff, but handy when trying to dig through huge amounts of text at a time. So, this is just how to get to the sites you need, but what sites do you need anyway? Well, a few. Wikipedia is pretty reasonable on hard science stuff usually, but I wouldn't trust it for much else. Twitter, of all things, can be of massive use, but we'll get to that in a moment. Same thing with research paper sites. Before we do that, we're going to look at forums. Yeah, just those sites where a bunch of people talk in text about a particular topic. Why? Well, you know that search we did for horseshoe orbit Saturn with Saturn in quotation marks? Do that again, except at the end of it, type in forum. Oh hey, it's not the first one on the list for me, but right under it is a physics forum, where people talk about physics. Neat. Guess who goes there? Yeah, like physics students in university, actual physicists, physics professors, or people who have a strong enough fascination with the stuff that they can probably answer any questions you might have about those horseshoe orbits you were looking up. Seriously, do some basic research first on something like Wikipedia, but once that's done, talk to people. If you have a question that you don't know, Google search it, or some other search engine. If you hate Google, it doesn't matter, just look it up. If you can't find it with the tools we covered already, well, look up a forum and ask there. The chances are someone will be more than happy to give you an answer if you just ask for it. What was that stuff about, like, Twitter and research paper sites? Well, let's do this in reverse order since we started with the last one first. That means research papers. Same dilly again. Do your search for horseshoe orbit Saturn, with Saturn still in quotation marks, and now add at the end of it research paper without the forum tag. Hey, right at the top for me I got Horsing Around on Saturn by Robert J. Vanderby of Princeton University. Now, a research paper like this is probably going to be filled with a lot of physics and math that will probably go over your head unless you've studied these things in depth. Fortunately, you don't need most of that kind of data, just the rough gist of what they're saying most of the time. A quick skim down the PDFs there states that, yeah, the N-body problem, which is where you have multiple planets orbiting together, is absurdly complex and difficult. Like, scientists have only solved it for 3 planets at a time, or 2 plus the sun so far. 4 and up hasn't even been solved by supercomputers chucking away at it because it's really a lot more complex than you think. You don't really need to know the math behind why it's such a bloody mess to figure out. All you need to know is that once you throw multiple gravity wells together, it sucks to figure out what happens. A little more scrolling through, and oh hey, he mentions that when you have one really, really big mass there, like a big old planet the size of Saturn, it tends to make things way simpler to figure out. You can basically ignore the smaller tiny masses like an asteroid-sized object, and it all falls into place pretty nicely. He gives a few more examples, such as asteroid clusters in front of and behind Jupiter, which stick in the Lagrange points. If you get stuck on something like you're not sure what a Lagrange point is, well, open another tab and search for it as we just covered. The point is, a research paper like this normally has a pretty good explanation of why stuff works, and while they tend to have a lot of extra data, which is only really useful if you're able to understand all the terms and mathematical properties from a university student level or higher, for the kind of work we're talking about, you don't need to be absolutely pristine on being able to figure out exactly 100% how something works. All you need is a rough understanding of what's sort of going on, more or less. More accuracy is better, but let's face it, most people who are going to look at your game or movie or whatever won't know any better either. So as long as it's sort of accurate and you give a really basic layman's version explanation, it's all good, and the people who catch mistakes will usually let them slide as long as they're minor issues. Again though, if you run into something that you really don't understand, well, then what? You could ask your forum buddies you made previously. Oh, but they don't know either. Oh, hey! What about that guy who wrote the research paper? Now, I'm not suggesting that you go pester this guy specifically on us about horseshoe orbits, so please don't do that. This kind of specific poking only tends to work if you nudge someone who doesn't have to deal with this on a regular basis. Actually, to be clear, do basic internet searches first and foremost. If that can't net you an answer, ask a forum or website. If it's something specific you can't get elsewhere, then go poke a specialist. Anyway, the point is, well, we have the tools to do this. I did a Google search for Robert J. Vanderby, Princeton University Twitter. Didn't get what I was looking for, and Google kept saying Twitter wasn't present in what my results were. So I just put quotations around Twitter, and hey, there we go. Found the guy. At least, probably. He's got a bunch of stuff about turtles. Is this the right guy? Dunno. Control+F for Princeton, though, and yep, he definitely went to Princeton, and a student even mentions that at Princeton professor at Robert Vanderby. So, yay, right guy. Sorry to Mr. Vanderby if you get a bunch of people bugging you about this. It's only meant to be an example. The point here is that if you do a little digging, you can probably come up with someone who's an expert on pretty much any given topic and get a hold of them on Twitter. If it's someone famous, no, let's face it, someone like Dawkins is rough to get a hold of because so many people talk to him so often. Yes, I have actually gotten Richard Dawkins to answer a question for me before, but don't hold your breath on it. In any case, now that you found the person you want to talk to, just send them a friendly message. Twitter's only got 140 characters, so it can't be big, but quick message like, hey, I'm making a game and wanted to get the physics right for it. Can I ask you about horseshoe orbits? And send that off. And there's a surprisingly good chance that within a few hours to a week, you'll actually get a reply back. See, that's the thing. People who love what they do tend to enjoy talking about what they love. Go figure. You see this video series you're watching right now at this very moment? Yeah, I love what I do. I talk about my work, and I want anyone, including you, who is interested in it, to hear about how to do awesome stuff yourself. The same thing goes for pretty much anyone else who loves their work. I used Richard Dawkins as an example earlier because, well, will he be sucking into debates without prepared materials to work with, and can kind of be a jerk sometimes? He also really loves his work and loves to answer questions about it. Seriously, if you have a question on evolution that Wikipedia and forums can't answer, poke him. Either he knows and will tell you, or will know where to direct you to someone else who can tell you the answer, almost guaranteed. And if not, one of his followers may well be able to do so for you anyway. The point here is that if you're making a game, writing a book, doing a script for a movie, or any other form of media, people who know their stuff hate it when you get it wrong. In fact, they hate it so much, they'd much rather just tell you how to do it right. In fact, they love to tell you how to get it right because it shows you're genuinely interested in taking the topic seriously. So yeah, use Google, use forums, use Twitter or Facebook or any other social media out there. Read research papers, make abusive use of things like TV tropes for ideas, or see how to avoid really bad examples of things which suck. Or Wikipedia for general overviews of hard science stuff. The internet is absolutely amazing. You can get in touch with a university professor and be talking to them over Skype or Discord or something within a day sometimes, and getting a personal tutoring session on how to make this concept for your game work. They want to help you because they want you to get it right, and because it'll spread that information to far more people if you do it right. Make use of the tools you have, and the internet is the biggest resource for easily accessible information that has ever existed on the planet. For games in particular, use the tools we just covered to find games that do what you're trying to accomplish. in a similar manner and check them out. Get the game, read it, see how it works, what it does to solve problems you've run into. Get as many reference points as possible and see what parts you like and don't from each. Compile them all together, and you'll have a much better working knowledge than any of the previous designers did because you have all their information and more. Want to know about horror games? Watch horror movies, read horror novels, play horror games, backwards engineer what makes them scary, and find a way to implement it into your own game in your own personal way. And again, that doesn't mean go pester the people mentioned in this video, but it does mean actually ask people when you have a question, whether it's on a forum or over Twitter. Just ask. You'd be amazed at what people are willing to teach to the inquisitive. So with that, I'm out. I'll see you next time.